Tonight's episode is sponsored by Zombie with a Shotgun. Are you guys tired of the same old zombie projects where the humans need to survive the zombie apocalypse, or when the humans fight each other and the story isn't really about the zombies at all? Zombie with a Shotgun is going to be the zombie film where all the rules we know about other zombie films go right out the window. In this zombie film, the zombie will be the hero, and it will have other zombies to help out on the war against the humans. The story follows Aaron, who isn't sure if he is infected with the zombie virus or some other infection. He takes this journey along with his girlfriend Rachel and his shotgun, where they both find out the deep secrets about the zombie virus and their love life. Also sponsored by Preacher 6, offering salvation to the worst kind of people, 6 bullets at a time. Hello, freaks, and welcome to the day's show. This is our second podcast on horror movie freaks. I hope you enjoy it because tonight's episode is going to be dedicated to Death House. This is going to be part 1. We will have a part 2 coming next week. And toward the end of the show, we do have a major surprise to give you. So make sure you stick around for that. Tonight I'm joined by Amanda and also Stefan. And we're going to go over I'm going to go over the plot summary real quick, and then Amanda is going to read the full synopsis of the movie. And then we're going to get into the discussion. So, Death House, the basic plot summary is 2 federal agents fight their way through 9 levels of hell inside a secret prison known as the Death House. A facility-wide prison break turns their fight into a tour of horrors as they push toward the ultimate evil housed in the lowest depths of the earth. So now I'm going to turn this over to Amanda.
Thanks. Alright, so the synopsis for Death House, and this does contain spoilers. The Death House is the Area 51 of Evil, a subterranean government facility that holds humanity's worst on 9 levels. Hell, Dante's 9th level, holds the 5 evils, the dark stars of Death House. These individuals are so heinous they can never walk among society again. They may also be supernatural. Agents Toria Boone and Jay Novak have their own dark pasts, arriving at Death House to tour its levels and observe its denizens firsthand, as well as the medical and mental experiments of Doctors Eileen Fletcher and Karen Redmayne. Their depraved experiments date back to the Nazi doctors of World War II. Prison cells are virtual reality holodecks that recreate prisoner environments before they were incarcerated. A special hallucinogenic gas keeps inmates under control. The victims are homeless, bussed into Death House to play literal victims while killing habits are studied. The results are sick, but only a hint of what goes on here. Hell literally breaks loose inside the facility when an EMP device detonates, killing all power and communication, and releasing every prisoner. Boone, Novak, and Fletcher are caught in a race against advancing prisoner hordes led by occultist neo-Nazi Seed. The monsters are freed and they're going down. Boone and Novak's fight through Death House turns into a House of Horrors gauntlet with the only hope of escape in descending into hell, and with the help of the 5 evils. Events culminate in a violent face-to-face standoff with absolute evil, only to find that they have traveled down a rabbit hole and through a looking glass. Black is white and white is black, and the definitions of good and evil no longer apply. Who are the monsters? Who will escape?
I can't wait. I think it sounds awesome.
And honestly, what you just read, I think some of the most exciting parts for me and the most intriguing is the holographic pods that kind of show their environments before they were incarcerated, and then the people being bussed in and being victims and being studied.
Right.
With the killer's killing habits. I mean, that is one hell of a idea, and that's the part that is extremely exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be really nice to see all this take place on screen. And if anybody's been following around on Twitter, if you've been keeping up with Harrison Smith and Death House, they've also been showing some behind-the-scenes footage in the editing room, so you get to see a few little things that you're not seeing on other horror sites. So I highly recommend following them if you're not already.
Yes, and lots of pictures, which are awesome.
Oh, tons of pictures. So now, also another major thing in the movie is the location, the prison, which a lot of people may not know this, but it's an actual prison that has been around since the 1800s. It's a very famous prison for some of the things that have happened over the years.
Notorious.
Yeah, it's
That's
it's
what I thought.
underwent some very major experiments over the years, to say the least. And a lot of these are by the U.S. government, by the Army, by a few other companies. I can't really mention. I don't want to mention one of the names because they're still in business, and I don't want to get sued for
Yeah.
anything.
Two of
So
them.
two of them.
are.
So
Yeah.
it's on Wikipedia if you want to look it up. So feel free to delve in there. I just don't want to mention any names in our podcast.
But you did mention the amount of money that the Army paid,
Yes,
$380,000 to fund some of these experiments.
they did. They did. And I'm trying to look it up here. Yes, the U.S. Army they were funding part of the program from 1951 to 1974. The first,
And
yeah, the
this
first
is
thing
the
that they,
Holmesburg prison.
I'm sorry.
This is the Holmesburg prison in Pennsylvania.
Right. Yeah, I failed to mention that. I do apologize. But yeah, the first thing that they did, this was back in 1951, is when they paid Dr. Klingman $10,000 to start injecting dioxin into the prisoners. I mean, and this was 70 prisoners that they did these injections on. So, I mean, that's the major stuff. That is the main chemical in Agent Orange.
That's the main carcinogen,
Yeah.
cancer-causing agent, and Agent Orange.
Right, and then what you were talking about, later in 1964 to 1968, the U.S. Army actually paid $386,486 to the two professors, Albert Klingman and Herbert Copeland, to perform more experiments with mind-altering drugs on 320 more inmates. So this is a very notorious prison. It's
Right,
well,
along with the
For
skin
that
graft.
was the 10 prisoners that they increased the dosage outside of what they were allowed.
By how much?
it was
400.
400. I think it was 468 times
Yeah.
what the authorized amount was for the
Yes, by the-
experiment. So
By the chemical company.
right. Dr. Klingman apparently went above and beyond what he was supposed to do.
Right.
So
He
yeah,
wanted to make
that
sure he
was
got everything.
yeah.
Along with
so,
the skin graft
yeah,
experiment.
skin grafts. They also did experiments. It's written more about it in the book. They did experiments. I think you touched on it on the last podcast with the heat experiments, where they exposed
yes.
prisoners to extreme heats for prolonged periods of time.
Over 3 days. I'm sorry, 2.5 days. 190 degrees it got up to, and I think 4 died just roasting alive.
Yeah,
During the hunger strike. I mean,
yeah. So it's some pretty
So-
bad stuff is went on in this prison. And if you haven't seen the prison before, you may have actually seen it and not realized it. If you've seen the movie Law Abiding Citizen, it was actually the prison that was featured in that film. It's been featured in a couple other films over the years. It was actually, they quit using it as a standalone prison in 1995. They still use it to do a few things, like when the other prison is overpopulated, they still use a portion of the prison. So it is still in use today, technically, but it's not a fully active running prison throughout the whole thing anymore. It's, for the most
Still
part,
have
abandoned.
guard-
that's pretty amazing. And if anybody gets a chance, sorry, go ahead. If anybody gets a chance and wants to, they could look up the behind-the-scenes interview by the Dorkening, Dorkening, that includes interviews with, Harrison Smith, Kane Hodder, Courtney Palm, Cody Longo, the set designers, stunt coordinators, and you get to see a little bit of the inside of the prison, maybe some of the cells. You get to see the environment that some of these cast and crew members were actually working in, and some of the bad juju that went along with it. There was quite a few crew members that were wearing charms, crosses, burning sage, trying to
Yeah.
kind of overcome some of the
history.
bad. Yes, exactly.
And Amanda I think she was getting ready to touch on the actors used to play the guards are not necessarily actors.
Right?
Right? They're the actual guards that work there.
Yeah. They got
It's
6.
gonna be incredible that they have that kind of.
Yeah, I mean they're trained. They already know what's going on.
Right. Yeah.
They're
They were able to get 6 Philadelphia correctional officers as extras in the movie, which is fascinating unto itself. You know, all some insight as far as maybe working there. And
get the guards that work in that portion of the Holmesburg prison that's still running. They know everything about that prison. I mean,
exactly.
that's going to be awesome seeing them act in this movie.
It is. It is. I love it when movies use like actual people that know about the locations and everything, or like in some of the military movies when they actually use military personnel because it just seems more realistic when they do that. So I really like that idea. These people work in that environment on a daily basis, so they're going to act just like they do in the real prison situation. So
And who knows what they experience day to day.
right.
What was interesting is when I was watching the behind-the-scenes interview with what's her name, Courtney Palm. She was mentioning how there was still some manila envelopes on site with, I'm assuming, would be the inmates' personal belongings that were never returned to them. And she was able to kind of look at some of the stuff, and she actually, according to her own interview, intended to get some of these items back to the people. And when she went to try and remove them from the cell or whatever, wherever they were, she couldn't do it. Whatever it was, the energy would not allow her to actually remove the items from where she found them.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that's.
If I'm not mistaken, it's been researched and stuff in several of the like the haunted research programs and things like that over the years. So it's definitely an interesting place, to say the least.
Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. It'd be an amazing Ghost Hunters episode or something along those lines, you know?
Oh yeah, it would be a fun place to spend the night, that's for sure.
Yes, definitely, definitely.
That's what's going to be so awesome is seeing it made in a place like this. It gives it that extra attraction.
Right, and if y'all, one of the creepy things is there's actually a book that's named after it, but I just found this interesting. It's rumored, as far as what the doctor said upon arriving at the prison, and it's also the name of the book that talks about the prison. And I just love the way the doctor says it, just nonchalantly. When he arrived, Dr. Klingman was claimed to have said, "All I saw before me were acres of skin. It was like a farmer seeing a fertile field for the first time." That's just creepy, coming from a doctor that's doing the experiments on the place. That is just, yeah.
He's been there too long, and he's too used to it, and he's too comfortable with it. That
was just creepy.
That's scary.
Well, look back into it, and everything that the doctor had already been through being there, and all the riots that they had, and how dangerous it got at times. You gotta figure he had to have gotten used to it so quickly.
Right, because I think it was in 1973, a couple inmates plotted to kill the deputy warden and the warden himself, and produced fake passes to get to the deputy warden, stabbed him to death, and then the warden was stabbed in the neck during a hostage rescue, and he died on his way to the hospital. But the inmates were able to get to the deputy warden and the warden himself and take them both out. I mean, what a violent place. It was just unreal.
Back when it was fully operational, I mean, I couldn't imagine working in, or I couldn't imagine if you had to be one of the prisoners in that place. I mean, I know they're not good people if they're in that prison, but that's bad.
Still.
Notice they had
that's some scary stuff.
That actually escaped.
So.
And there was one that they never caught.
Really?
That's interesting.
Wow.
But
he lives in North Dakota, I believe.
But if there is, like I said, this is not everything to do about the prison, of course. I mean, there's so much to cover. There's a whole book written about it. So if anybody would like more information on the prison, I highly recommend checking out the book. Highly recommend going online, checking out Wikipedia. Once again, it is the Holmesburg prison in Pennsylvania. it's a very interesting read, to say the least. And if you haven't seen the pictures of it, it's a very unique looking prison. I mean, you need to go online and see the sky view. I mean, it's amazing. You just need to see it for yourself. But on to more about Death House. I don't know if everybody knows it or not, because I mean, Death House, it just now wrapped on shooting, and it's in the editing stage. But the film was originally written by Gunnar Hansen, which we mentioned last time in last week's podcast. Sadly, he died before production really ramped up on the movie. He got to see the final version of it in script form, and they were able to get him in some parts as kind of a tribute. He is in the film, according to the producer of the film. So we watched that that was part of the Dorkening video, which is highly recommend checking it out. That's a really good podcast interview. I mean, highly recommend following those guys. Yeah. All of even the ones not about Death House, all of their other stuff, they're just really good at what they do. So highly recommend checking those guys out. But yeah, Gunnar Hansen, who everybody knows from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, just a classic. I mean, I hated to hear about his passing last November. It was a very sad thing. I really hoped he could see this movie because he was so proud of that movie.
Yeah, and he was one of my favorite horror characters. I mean, Leatherface.
He was Leatherface.
I mean, you don't get much better than that.
Yeah,
but I guess he was able to share a scene, according to Harrison, through today's technology with Debbie Rochon, which is amazing.
Right. So I'm glad that they did get to get something there, because this is definitely. I mean, this is his last film, so he put his heart and soul into this movie when he was writing it, and I can't wait to see what Harrison Smith has done with it. I think he's going to do a phenomenal job.
Yes, he will have the utmost respect for him, and he was excited to work alongside him. So I can't wait to see what he did with that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's an interview. If you go to Harrison Smith's Twitter page and scroll down, you'll find it. It's through the horror website horrorfuel.com, where they actually talk about it. It's written by Harrison Smith. He did a whole article on how Death House came to be, and he's got a lot of that about working with Gunnar in the final days and everything like that. So it's just it's a really good article that I highly recommend everybody looking at. Once again, that's on horrorfuel.com if you want to go check it out. It's just a really good read. And looking now, we can talk about a couple of the other stars here. Of course,
I think he's going to be, when we were on that about him directing this, I think he's going to do a pretty incredible job with the movies that he's done before. Right,
because The Fields which you've seen recently, which we're going to go into more of that, a little more backstory on next week's show. Like I said, hang around. We do have a surprise for you later.
Yes.
But right now we can talk about somebody else. I mean, everybody knows there's a whole host of horror actors in here, but we're going to talk about some of the stars of the movie that may not be as well known as some of the main actors in horror, but I think they have a very good start out in their careers. Courtney Palm is one. I think she's a really good actress.
Total babe. Just to throw that in there.
Indeed. She was. The most recent movie I've seen her in was the Zombievers movie, which anybody that is a fan of B horror, just good fun movies with like real animatronics, not so much CG and everything else. That's just a fun movie to watch that I highly recommend for everybody. And she's the main star of that movie also. She's been in another movie that's really popular I'm seeing around Twitter called Sushi Girl. That's supposed to be a really good movie. Sadly, I haven't got a chance to see it yet, but I will be watching in the near future. But she stars along with... Let's see, I'm trying to find everything here. She stars alongside with Cody Longo. There are the two main cast members. They're going to be the two agents that are in the movie that we talked about before.
And he was in Piranha 3D.
Right, which was also another fun movie. I think I think everybody has seen the short clips and everything else from Piranha. I mean, that movie is just
I liked it because I grew up
hilariously
with
gory. I love it.
right, and I grew up watching the original Piranha in the
It-
I think late '80s or so. So to watch a remake of it, I loved it. You know, that's to me that's fun. You know,
Oh,
watching those.
it is real fun. The originals were great. I mean, I've seen the original. It's awesome. The new one, I love just the outlandish gore, the
Yes,
decapitations, the
yes.
biting off
People
limbs.
getting pulled
Movies
in
about
half.
piranhas. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, so it's just to me, it's just one of the newer classics. I go back and watch it all the time. It's a
Yeah.
soft spot in my heart, kind of like Sharknado. So yeah, I just love the B
Those
movie.
movies are so much fun, though.
They are.
Well,
They are.
as
They're just a good. I call them popcorn movies because they're just a fun movie. I mean, you can't go into them rating them on the greatest. Um, I mean, it's not meant to be like a great acting movie. They're not trying to win an Oscar. It's a
right,
B horror film. It's made to go get a box of popcorn and just have fun.
and just enjoy. And
It
as you
is.
mentioned that, I was watching Harrison Smith in his interview, and he made it very clear that this isn't a satire movie. This is a very serious. You know, what I mean,
Yeah,
it's
and I'm
meant to
glad he's
be,
doing that.
which is
Yeah,
awesome. It makes
because
me
he
very
talked about
excited.
that. He was afraid people would think it was going to be nothing more than just oh, look who that is, oh, look who this is, look who that is, and no depth to the story at all. So I'm glad that he's trying to look above and beyond that.
And actually, everything I was watching in the interview was that some of the actors were surprised by some of the amount of gore, just because of the intelligence that was written into the script. So they weren't expecting that type of gore. So to match the intelligence with a script with that level of gore, to me, that's perfect. I love that. That's perfect.
I know. I'm looking forward to it. And I think every horror fan should.
Yeah.
Um,
I
it's
think
going to
there's
be
one
good.
other that you wanted to talk about as well, wasn't there?
What's that?
Said there's one other actress you wanted to talk about, wasn't there?
Um, there's two. The other one is the third main star in the movie, which I think everyone will remember from one of her most classic roles in Cujo, and that's Dee Wallace. She
Yes.
is Dr.
Icon.
Fletchner in the she's the doctor in the movie that joins the two agents while trying to survive. I would love to go through all of the movies she's been in, but she has been in so many movies over the year. It's just ridiculous.
Cujo has got to be like her most
That's
iconic
the first
role.
one I think of, but I mean she's associated for I mean E.T., Cujo, The Howling, Critters. I mean she's associated with so many classics over the years. That's
But her character in Cujo, the acting that went into that,
Yeah.
I know it. When I was little watching that movie, I mean we had several dogs around the house, and that just freaked you out. Thinking about
It just
what if
makes
that
you wonder.
actually happened. It's just, I mean,
Especially after Old Yeller.
right, right. And one of our neighbors actually had a Saint Bernard at the time, so
oh no,
it was even worse. And the dog ran loose. It was a free roaming dog in the neighborhood. Sweetest dog ever, but it stayed with that long hair and everything. It stayed muddy and dirty when it was outside, and I couldn't help think Cujo. Every time I saw it, I was wondering when it was going to attack and kill me.
Yeah, as you're coming out your back door and you see it, you're like, you know, seeing it across the fence or in the neighbor's yard,
Yeah,
wondering, you
it's
know,
yeah, it,
like, am I going to make it back in my house in one piece?
right, right. I mean, it's just one of those movies that stick with you for a while. But she
Yeah.
is a really good actress. I think she's going to do well playing her part. I think all the actors are going to be good because I mean, I wish I could go over all of the actors that are in this movie, but it would take us an hour just to name all of the actors that are in this movie.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's another reason why we're having to do a two-part episode because we can't get to everybody without going into a podcast that I mean, you can't I don't want to have a 2-hour podcast. I mean,
I feel
it's
like
just
we could name
people
maybe
get
three of
tired.
them. Three,
Yeah.
quick three, like maybe Kane Hodder.
Yeah, I mean, that's just
I mean,
that's a given. He is the one when you the synopsis at the first of the show. He is the main bad guy in the movie that they're running from, because he's the one controlling the horde.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting because Kane Hodder, I mean, Kane Hodder he's Jason Voorhees. He's everything. He's from Hatchet. I mean, he's been in so many horror movies, and he's an amazing stuntman too. The movies even did stunts for in the movie Seven, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. So
Right.
the man is a legend.
Without giving out and too much more, I was hoping to maybe mention two more that are kind of in the same movies for the most part. Some of Rob Zombie's projects, Sid Haig and Bill Moseley, Otis, and I mean to have those two in this movie as well.
And Sid Haig, I mean, most of our viewers right now, probably the first thing they think of is Captain Spaulding.
Yes.
I mean, he is Captain Spaulding, period. But
Or two I can't get into more.
yeah, it's when you look down his movie list, I mean, he's been in so many classic TV shows, so many horror movies, so many just regular movies, dating back all the way into the 1960s. I mean, his Internet Movie Database list is just insane. And Bill Moseley, I mean, everybody knows him as Chop Top. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Classic character. And then, of course, as Otis Driftwood.
Right.
Yeah.
From The Devil's Rejects and House of a Thousand Corpses, both classic movies. And, of course, the one that I think Amanda was speaking of earlier when she said I had another actress to mention is Felissa Rose, who you should know right off if you love Jason, if you love campy horror movies, and you have not seen Sleepaway Camp, something is wrong with you, because that is a classic that everyone needs to see.
Don't
Period.
make fun of me.
Period. Everyone needs to see it. Amanda has not seen it. I don't know what's wrong with her. I should boot her from the podcast right now. Wait a minute. Am I seeing Stefan has not seen it?
I may have to get booted with her, so please don't move.
Oh, you're hurting me. My heart is
promise
hurting.
you, by next week we will see it.
Yeah, but
Yes.
Josh,
Pledge?
there's something we were making fun of you last time about.
Yes, I know.
I'm sorry.
And my lack of seeing classic. Yes, I know. I haven't seen
Tell us, what was it?
Boondock Saints. I haven't seen. I mean, I
The
haven't seen
Walking
things
Dead?
like The Godfather. So yes, I know. I'm a horrible person.
What else? Walking Dead? I can't
No, I've
remember.
seen all the Walking Dead.
I thought there was something else.
That was
I swear
that was
there's
a dirty
something else.
rumor started about me. That was our other administrator, Zach, who has not seen The Walking Dead, which I think is on a rock somewhere. So, but yeah,
Mistake you too.
right. But Felissa Rose, she's just a really nice person. The first horror site that I ever ran back about 8 or 9 years ago, she was the first person that I ever interviewed. And she's just the sweetest person ever. I interviewed her back in 2006 when Satan's Playground was coming out, which was a really good indie horror film. Highly recommend everybody checking it out. And here recently, I mean, she's been in countless movies, but here recently she's also known for producing the Slayer videos. I mean, the extremely gory Slayer videos that have came out recently. I highly recommend checking those out. If you are a horror fan and a gore fan, there's stabbing, there's beheadings, there's gutting, there's everything that you can possibly think of in these videos. It's the ultimate Slayer video ever. So,
Josh, did you say you used to work on Haunts?
I did.
Scott Lake? Okay.
I did. Our other administrator, Scott Lake, he used to work at I think it was Scare Park in Kentucky, and I used to work at a place called Hacker House in North Carolina. I worked there for a couple years. I was Zombie number 7, I believe was my character's name. I got to guard the laundry room.
I bring that up because the set designer, and I so wish that I had wrote down his name. I just was trying to do some last minute research and it slipped by me, but the set designer for Death House was discovered by Harrison Smith on a haunt he had up in Utica, New York. And I guess it was more of a industrial type haunt as opposed to maybe your traditional. And Harrison was impressed with the story that he had put together surrounding the haunt. And this is his first movie experience putting together the set designs, and
Yeah, I read about that.
I think it's phenomenal.
I do too. I love that because I mean I've been to several haunted houses and haunted trails and everything like that before, and I think a lot of the people at these places don't get credit for the things that they create in these haunted houses. It is a lot of people don't understand the work that is involved in the haunted house. Like Hacker House, I mean, we had to go for months before Halloween redesigning sets, making sure everything was ready. I mean, it's just amazing the work that's put into the detail of the design and everything like that. So props to him for that.
Definitely. And that was also a little bit of a shout out to you and Scott too as well.
Oh yeah, back in our horror days.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of all being part of the same thing.
Which that kind of leads into something else we're going to be doing later in the year when the haunts and stuff start opening around. We're going to go to haunts. We're going to do a few live broadcasts from some of the haunts, and that should be pretty interesting. Mike can even talk a couple of the haunts into letting us take a camera through one as a live feed on Facebook. So we're going to try to do
wonderful.
All kinds of stuff with that.
That'd be very cool.
And I'm looking down now. We are sadly coming toward the end of the podcast, second podcast. But, as I said earlier, there will be a part 2 that will be focused on Death House again. I mean, there's so much to talk about in Death House. We just wanted to get a lot of the upfront basics out of the way, just so you know about the film, because, I mean, a lot of people, I mean, it's still in production. So, I mean, it's not like it's been released. They don't have a trailer out yet, so we're just trying to inform people and everything. But, for next week's podcast, we do have some major news for you.
So exciting.
Yes, we are going to be joined by a very, very special guest. We are going to be joined by the director and writer of Death House. Harrison Smith will be joining us on our podcast next week.
Which literally happened as we were about to
it was
jump on.
It was perfect timing. It was insane. I mean, just huge hand to Harrison Smith. Thank you, sir.
So he'll be able to explain a little bit more. I had a few things I wanted to kind of ask him about because in the interview, he seemed to be pretty excited about an iconic scene or a scene that he felt would be an iconic scene in the movie where the characters found, to quote him, some things in the meat locker.
That sounds interesting.
Yes, and
anytime there's a horror movie and meat locker in the same sentence,
especially when he's that excited about what's found in it, and that's I'm dying just from the way he described it. I cannot wait to find out what it is that is going to be going on in the meat locker.
We also had a special message from him.
We did.
Yes, at the last minute. We got a few messages that
right, and he wanted to lead us into the next episode.
He did, which is awesome.
Yeah, basically, he just said that.
Yeah, give us.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I went through a few, but. Basically, he just mentioned that we have a very smart, sexy, and violent film. It's horror action and packed with horror names. So it's just a little bit of a tease before he joins us next week. And we can delve into a little more about the characters, about what he's got planned for the movie and his vision. And we could not have been more excited to have heard from him right before we were about to pop.
We were literally we were getting ready to hit record on the podcast, and Stefan's phone went off.
Yeah, we were so psyched.
Yes, we were.
Incredibly psyched.
Also, Amanda, I believe you have a message to let some of our viewers know what they can do with next week's show.
Please, when you like it and subscribe, please leave any questions that you might want to ask him, and we will pick out our favorite questions and see what we can get him to answer.
Yes, and I just have a small little addition. If you go onto the Death House Facebook page, you will see posts by Harrison where if you like the page, I believe it was, you'll be in the running for a fully signed script with notes and everything. I think there's
Yes.
2 left that
It
he will
was-
be he will be giving away to the lucky winner. I think there's 2 left.
Yeah, it's
And
amazing.
it's complete with director's notes and everything. So go to the Death Proof Facebook page, like it. If you see the post, like the post, just in case, because I'm not quite sure which one. But as you get on there and you look, you'll be able to see which which is
Oh yes,
what.
and if
Which
you go to our Twitter account, it's horror MOV freaks on Twitter. We'll be retweeting a lot of stuff for Death House, so you'll be able to stay aware on that. And also, if you haven't yet, please go onto Twitter, follow us, of course. Please, just follow us first. Then, once you follow us, head over to Death House. I mean, you can find them easily by the search box. They are hugely popular on Twitter right now. Follow them, follow them, follow them. We want a huge release on Death House. And another thing is they're promoting a hashtag. So when you're talking about horror movies on Twitter, use the hashtag Horror United.
Yes.
So they are trying to spread the word.
Wonderful.
But please just remember, leave us some questions, give us some ideas, what some of you might want to know about, and we'll see what we can ask him and what he's comfortable with letting us in on.
Right, you can leave your questions on the YouTube for the video once we post it up. You can also leave your messages if you're a member of our closed group on Facebook, Horror Movie Freaks. You can find us on there. We'll have a post in there that you can leave messages on. Our official Facebook page, which is facebook.com/horror movie freaks 1. You'll find us there. You'll be able to post comments there. We're going to keep up with all of them, and we're going to pick out the best comments, and who knows? Maybe they'll get answered. Maybe they won't. Might be too much detail. We don't know. We will find out next week, though. So thank you very much for tuning in on this episode. I really appreciate it. I hope y'all had fun. Join us next week, same time. It'll be toward the end of the week. It'll be posted on Friday evening, and you'll get to see our interview with Harrison Smith. So thank you for joining us, folks. Y'all have a wonderful night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, guys.